Welcome back to the Wild Ones Pro Show with me, Jimmy.
And me, producer Emily. You join us at the end of stage 2 of the tour, where a rainy start and strong gust caused some early crashes and mechanicals. But the weather did eventually clear up, and it was all eyes on the final 10 kilometres, where a grenade went off.
Yep, it ended in a sprint with Van der Poel and the GC favourites, but it was Van der Poel who eventually took the stage ahead of Pogacar.
So before we get into it properly, shout out to Garmin and Van Rysel for supporting the show and helping us to bring you these free daily highlights.
Okay, so stage 2. Here is how it went down. It all kicked off in Low-en-Planck.
Low-en-Planck. That's you on a Sunday night, isn't it? After a weekend on the wine.
How rude, Emily. I will have you know that I have never been Low-en-Planck. I have plenty in the cupboard, always there, ready for emergencies.
Okay, fair enough. Well, Katie was on the start line soaking up the atmosphere and getting soaked. To bring us some of the overnight updates, over to Katie.
Hi everyone in the studio. I'm here in Low-en-Planck. The race has just rolled out and I'm standing under an umbrella because it's pouring with rain. We've seen an absolute chaotic start already to the race. It's running late, as I'm sure you know by now. We've had news overnight that Filippo Ganna and Stefan Bissegger both have concussions following their crashes yesterday, so let's hope everybody stays safe today. It's been like Glastonbury here this morning. People in ponchos, mud everywhere, the buses trying to get in and out of the paddock. It was a bit of a nightmare, but let's hope the rest of the day runs a lot more smoothly. Back to you in the studio.
So it was raincoats on and the race got underway, and a 4-man breakaway formed pretty early. It consisted of Yevgeny Fedorov, Bruno Amirai, Brent Van Moer and Andreas Leknesund.
And the break built up an early lead before a crash brought down Fedorov and Leknesund. They slipped coming around a wet corner. Corner?
That sounds quite nice.
Corner, even. I would rather a wet corner than a dry one.
Yeah, I would.
Well, anyway, they slipped coming around a wet corner, but dusted themselves off and managed to chase back on.
So Jayco's Eddie Dunbar and UAE's Adam Yates also took a tumble after touching wheels, but nothing too major. Then a small pile-up happened at around 100 kilometres to go. We saw Visma's Victor Campenaerts and Fred Wright from Bahrain victorious among the riders who were caught in that crash. There was some rip bib shorts, but everyone got back on, although we did hear Fred Wright had to see a doctor. We haven't heard any update on that yet, but hopefully he is okay.
Then we had the intermediate sprint, and the 4 in the breakaway took the top points, of course, but the drama happened just behind.
It did, yeah. It was Milan, Malia, Philipsen and Girmay in the young riders' jersey, all launching for 5th place. You have never seen such a tight 5th place battle. Milan took it, and he then wasn't very happy with Girmay, was he?
There was a lot of arm gesturing.
We think it's because Girmay deviated from his line slightly and sort of forced Milan over. I wouldn't have said it was significant. However, you know, they're battling for a big jersey here. Mm-hmm. So every point matters, and I can see why things would get a little bit heated.
I think it's interesting, though, because those are the kind of things that start getting into people's heads.
Yeah.
So is Milan impacted by it, or is he trying to impact Girmay by it? Who knows?
Who knows? Brian Coquard and Paul Penouet were also having some argy-bargy just behind. Don't know what happened there either, but Paul Penouet is on a yellow card, so he does need to be careful. So the breakaway got caught not long after, and then there was plenty of jostling for safe position at the front of the race as they entered the climb in the last 30k.
It was almost like today's stage was a classics race. There was lots of fighting to be in the best positions on those tight, the pinch points at the race where there might be accidents. Yeah. And they were fighting hard to have those first clean lines into those events. And then to control the race, the teams were then essentially blocking up the road and then pulling the pace back off. Mm-hmm. So there was this lots of ejections of pace and then backing off again.
Yeah, and as a result,
we saw Milan, who maybe was still vexed from the intermediate sprint. He did have a little tumble on the second climb, and he did end up coming off his bike. It did look like he was fine, though. I did see him bend his bars back around the right way.
So, final 10 kilometres, everything got turned up to 100.
The first climb in that final 10 kilometre, the effort that was put into getting to the top of it, it looked like it was a sprint stage. It looked like they were competing for an intermediate sprint, but of course they weren't.
Yes, there was even more jostling going on, and a front group did form for a little bit. That included Evenepoel, Roglic, Vingegaard, Pogačar. Obviously, Evenepoel and Roglic do not want to let Vingegaard and Pogačar go today like they did yesterday. Van der Poel, Matteo Jorgensen, Voeckelaar, etc. were all in there.
And with 5 kilometres to go, Vingegaard attacked. Remco instantly responded, and naturally Pogačar, cool as a cucumber, made sure he was there as well.
Yep, so that calmed down. Then we saw Kevin Voeckelaar, Matteo Jorgensen and Alexei Lukashenko make a move. That also then got reeled back in.
Followed by Red Bull's Florian Lipovitz, got a gap at about 1.5 kilometres to go, but it was closed down as well.
Yes, so it all came down to the final 700 metres, an uphill finish. It was very cat and mouse. No one wanted to peak too soon until they turned the final corner and caught sight of that finish line at about 100 metres. Van der Poel then launched. Pogačar fancied his chances, but couldn't quite compete. And Vingegaard knew he needed to be there as there was bonus seconds on offer. So he made sure he came in third. So we had Van der Poel, Pogačar, Vingegaard, 1, 2, 3.
It was everything we expected it to be, actually. We quite accurately called this stage, I think.
I know, it's like we know what we're doing. What? Anyway, amazing day for Alpecin. Amazing tour so far for Alpecin. They're going to be buzzing with that. In terms of the GC, Pogačar gains 6 bonus seconds from coming in second. Vingegaard gains 4 over, Roglic and Remco. They were there in the sort of main group that was coming over the line.
Yeah, so as you said, so they've lost a little bit more time, but not significant amounts. Roglic nearly missed the move, the final move, but did a lot of fighting to get back into it. So he was obviously knew the importance of this stage and made sure to not lose, well, I was going to say any more time. He did technically lose time, but the smallest amount of time possible.
Yes, I heard earlier in the day, especially when it was raining, the Red Bull team were told to get around Roglic and protect him like a bubble. So to make sure there was no crashing or anything like that. And that worked for them well because there wasn't a crash today for Roglic. Thank God. Talk to me about jerseys, Jimmy. It's all changed now. They've all changed hands.
Yeah, so every jersey is now with a different person. So our new yellow is Van der Poel.
It is, nice.
Who I believe has held the yellow jersey before. I think it was the year that, well, it was whenever the last Olympics were, wasn't it?
2021. Our source, Benny off camera, is telling us 2021. Also day 2, 2021. There you go.
So Van der Poel is back in yellow. We have, interestingly, Jasper Philipsen. Well, this is the bit that's not interesting. Jasper Philipsen is now going to be in green, which is the one he actually wants. And then we're going to see Pog in polka dots.
Oh, nice.
And I can't ever
Kevin Voeckelaar.
And Voeckelaar
yeah.
is going to be in the white jersey. So they have all mixed up a bit.
Nice. Okay, so we know the first couple of hours were marred by rain. And coincidentally, we were actually talking to some of the riders about rain before this stage happened. So I'm going to ask you a question, Jimmy. And It's the same question we asked the riders. Would you rather ride in the rain or on the turbo?
It's not an easy one to answer. If I have to just immediately pick one, it's turbo.
Yeah, 100% it's turbo. It is an easy answer.
If it's walking, I really enjoy walking in the rain. I don't particularly enjoy riding bikes in the rain, unless you have full mud guards. If you got full mud guards, you can ride in the rain and not get a wet nappy.
Okay, cool. So which are you going with?
Turbo.
Turbo.
Because I don't always have mud guards.
Yeah, fine. So Katie caught up with a few of the riders before this stage and asked them the very same question. So here's what Jaco Alula's Luke Durbridge, Mauro Schmidt, Matej Mohoric and Fred Wright from Bahrain Victorious and Little Trek's Tom Squinge had to say.
Ride on the turbo or ride in the rain?
Rain. 100% rain.
Ride on the turbo.
Turbo. Rain.
Rain?
What the hell was that?
Okay. So you might have noticed Tom Squinge's voice sound a little bit odd, and that is actually our fluff up of the day. He very, very kindly gave us his time, and sadly our mic wasn't working. But I really wanted to include him in this, so we had to do some Netflix style dodgy dubbing, courtesy of Benny.
Was that Benny?
It was Benny. So, you know, if you think it's offensive, then take it up with him. No, genuinely, I hope that wasn't offensive. I just wanted to put something in there. But
we keep getting messages saying we want to see Benny on the podcast. We want more Benny on the podcast. Well, now you've got it.
You have, yeah. And Tom Squinch, please consider this our official apology for that. Terrible effort. You are a legend. Thank you. Most of them said rain. So there you go. And obviously, you know, there's a huge difference between riding in the rain and racing in the rain, obviously. But I just thought, you know, we actually asked them this question before stage 1 started. I don't know whether they'd changed their answers after the day, especially maybe poor Fred Wright. But as you say, fingers crossed he's okay.
Yeah, they might have changed their answer. But, you know, these people, most of them, they don't ride in proper rain. It's not like northern rain. It's like 25 degrees in the Alps rain where it's actually quite nice.
Do you think?
It's a nice refreshing cool down. So we put up a poll on our YouTube channel and I thought no one was going to reply, but actually how many? 1,300 people replied. So 1,300 people voted. That's so many people. Thank you very much for doing that.
We asked them the same question,
Yes,
didn't
we asked the same question. So would you rather ride on the turbo or in the rain? And 56% of you would rather ride on the turbo. So correct answer. Well done.
Yeah. So those lads will be back to settle some more debates for us in the coming days, so stay tuned for that as well.
Meanwhile, Cofidis started the day on the back foot because they got burgled last night. They had 11 team bikes stolen from a truck. They woke up to find the door had been forced open and 143,000 euros worth of bikes were gone. Whoa, that is nuts, isn't it? Thankfully, they had enough spare bikes to start the stage, but they say police are investigating. Oh, that is mad, isn't it?
It is. I mean, I'm assuming all of this stuff will be insured, but it is a blow, isn't it? I just feel like maybe it's one of those things that it doesn't really affect the riders because they're kind of bubbled, but that's got to be like stress maximum for the staff, hasn't it? They
always talk about how everyone has a preferred bike.
Yeah.
Even if you've got 2 identical bikes, there's one that you prefer for no particular reason. It's just the way it is. So if your number 1 bike is one of the ones that got pinched, you'll just be a little bit off on that stage, won't you?
Marginal gains, isn't it? And marginal errors.
Yeah.
A psychological effect. The Wild Ones Pro Show is supported by Garmin.
And we are in some really good company because Garmin also supports some of the very best riders in the Tour de France and the Tour de France fam.
Yeah, they work with teams like Vismalisa Bikes, Soudal Quickstep, SD Works Pro Time, FDJ Suez, and many more.
And because Garmin provides these teams with trainers, head units and wearables, they've got access to mountains of incredible data.
And they're going to share some of that data with us throughout the coming stages. So we'll get a really interesting insight into the physical demands of the most prestigious bike races in the world.
So please stay tuned for that. And once again, thanks to Garmin for supporting the show.
How would you like to win a Van Rysel RCR-F 105 Di2 worth £5,000?
I would love to. I've ridden that bike. It is proper good.
Well, sorry, Jimmy, you can't. But one of our UK listeners will, thanks to our sponsor, Van Rysel.
That's class. The RCR-F is literally a Tour de France race bike.
Yeah, the official bikes of Decathlon, AG2R, Le Mondial.
The 105 version has the same grade of carbon that the pros ride.
So to enter the draw to win this bike, click the link in our description. You must be a UK resident, age 18 or over, and T's and C's apply. One winner will be chosen by Van Rysel and contacted by them a week after the draw closes at midnight on August 4th. I sound like one of those radio adverts, don't I?
No, it wasn't fast enough. So good luck, and thanks to Van Rysel for supporting the Wild Ones Pro Show.
So yesterday we talked about this year's green jersey contenders, so it seems only fitting that we run through the favourites for the yellow jersey.
This is the prize given to the rider with the lowest cumulative race time across all stages. The overwhelming favourite to win is Tadej Pogačar, but we can't overlook the threat posed by his main rival, Jonas Vingegaard.
In fact, in the last 4 Tours de France, after 328 hours of riding, only 1 minute and 25 seconds separates them. And if you discount time bonuses, it's actually only 3 seconds.
Tours de France? Tour of France's.
Well, there's not multiple Frances, but there's multiple tours.
Oh,
so
yes.
it's Tours of France, Tour de France.
I should never challenge you with correct grammar.
Don't
should
try
I?
it.
I was just posing a question to see what if there was maybe a different way of wording it, but you shut me down instantly. So shall I just move on?
Yeah, let's move on. We sat down with Katie once again to catch up on this year's contenders and their history.
Hello from the past once again. We're back with Katie, and today we're focusing on the most high-profile competition of the Tour, the General Classification, or as some know it, GC.
Yes, and for the past few years, that competition has been dominated by two men. 26-year-old Slovenian Tadej Pogačar riding for UAE Team Emirates, and his main rival, 28-year-old Dane Jonas Vingegaard, who rides for Visma Leasebike.
Yeah, now to fully understand the extent of this rivalry, we're going to take you all the way back to 2020.
Yes. Think of this like that bit that happens at the start of Netflix shows. Yeah. Previously on the Tour de France. It all started back in 2020. It was Pogačar's debut tour, and fellow countryman Primož Roglič was leader at Jumbo-Visma and in line to win his very first Tour de France. He was in the yellow jersey up until the stage 20 individual time trial.
Oh yeah, that was the steep one that finished on the summit of Planche de Belfi, wasn't it?
Yes, exactly. And if you remember, Roglič had a nightmare on that stage. In fact, even his helmet was ashamed to be seen with him by the end of the stage. But Pogačar was in stunning form. He won the stage by over a minute and took the yellow jersey.
I remember that because TT specialists Wout van Aert and Tom Dumoulin were absolutely gobsmacked.
Yeah, it was a crazy stage. It was just quite shocking. I don't think anybody expected to see that kind of performance from him at that point in his career.
Yeah, and he went on, Pogačar this is, to become the youngest Tour winner in over a century at 21.
Speaking of 21, the following year in 2021, it was expected that Pog and Rog would pick up where they left off. But a series of early crashes put paid to that. It was, if you remember, the Ale Omi Opie lady year.
Oh, yes.
The lady with the sign who was pointing at the camera and waving and then proceeded to take out the entire Jumbo-Visma team, which wasn't a good start for them. And it went from bad to worse, with Roglič crashing badly on stage 3 and withdrawing on stage 9 subsequently.
So is this where Jonas Vingegaard comes into the picture?
Well, yes. He was riding for Roglič as a domestique in that tour. However, by that point, stage 9, Pogačar had already built up a substantial lead on the GC. It was pretty much over as a contest. It should be noted for context that Vingegaard still came second that year on GC, albeit 5 minutes down, proving he had what it took to contest the GC.
Interesting. If only Vingegaard had had the chance to ride for himself from the start, I wonder if things would have been different.
So did he get that chance in 2022?
Yes, but it wasn't straightforward. Visma was still riding for Roglič at the beginning, until the cobbled stage on stage 5 when he crashed into a hay bale, ironically not on the cobbles but on the tarmac.
Was that Roglič out at that point?
No, but unlike in 2021, the team realised they should switch to Vingegaard for leadership. Pogačar won a few early stages that year, but Visma struck a killer blow in the GC on stage 11. Roglič and Vingegaard worked together to tire Pogačar out, and Vingegaard then launched to gain a 2-minute lead on GC, which Pogačar never recovered from.
So that's 2-1 to Pogačar. What happened in 2023?
That year, Pogačar arrived at the Tour out of form, sadly, as he'd fractured his wrist earlier in the year at Liège-Bastogne-Liège in April. He still landed the first blow in the GC battle, winning stage 6. But Jonas Vingegaard put in one of the most memorable time trial performances in recent history on stage 16.
Oh, yes. That is actually how we ended up on the Netflix Tour de France Unchained documentary. And it was the point where everyone thought that he was doping, right?
Well, it certainly raised a few eyebrows. I remember the silence on the day. Even the commentators just kind of shocked into disbelief, because it was just one of those performances that comes almost like Pogačar's in 2020, actually, that feels like it comes out of the blue a little bit. However, Visma have worked tirelessly on the time trial discipline, put in a heck of a lot of work, had the gear on point, and he just rode out of his skin that day, and it was just an incredible performance.
It was. He beat Pogačar by 1 minute 38 seconds over 22 kilometres.
Yeah, impressive stuff. And the next day in the mountains, on the Col de la Loze, Pogačar broke completely, telling his team over the team radio, "I'm gone, I'm dead."
Yeah, I noticed looking at the stage profiles. They're back on that climb this year on stage 18. It's the Queen stage. There's a summit finish, and I wouldn't be surprised if Pogačar goes out with a point to prove.
What's a Queen stage?
It's the highest. It's the highest ascent, isn't it, in a stage?
It's the hardest stage.
The hardest stage.
Yeah.
There we go.
The toughest stage. The one that's the showpiece for the race, so the GC race anyway.
So that makes it 2 apiece. 2 for Pog, 2 for Vingegaard. 2024.
Yeah, last year, which sadly didn't feel like a fair fight, unfortunately. Vingegaard came into the Tour off the back of a massive crash at Zulia, Basque Country in April, where he was reported to sustain life-threatening injuries. So the fact that he was even there on the start line is pretty incredible. Remco Evenepoel and Primož Roglic were also involved in the same crash. And yeah, that year many thought it was Pogačar's to lose, which proved to be the case. He showed total domination in the mountains with 6 stage wins altogether.
Yeah, it was incredible. I think he definitely silenced the critics who had said that he couldn't hack it in the mountains.
Vingegaard did have his day, though, on stage 11, which he won after Pogačar apparently underfueled that day. It was a really emotional moment for Jonas because obviously just to be on the start line, as I said, was a feat in itself. So to win a stage at the Tour de France, having gone through all of that, was really something.
It was. So by my count, this now makes it 3-2 to Pogačar. So does that bring us up to date?
Well, not quite. They've just gone head-to-head just a couple of weeks ago at the Criterium de Dauphiné, the traditional warm-up race for the Tour, where we got a preview of what's potentially to come in July. We don't usually see key competitors going head-to-head at the Dauphiné, so it's really good to see that match-up this year.
Yeah, and this is the first time that Pogačar and Vingegaard had gone head-to-head in a race since last year's Tour, right?
Yeah, exactly. Jonas tends to avoid Pogačar normally and race less, actually. So Pogačar's come from classics domination, basically, whereas Vingegaard has kept a lower profile. He won the Volta à Algarve earlier in the season, and then he crashed out of Paris-Nice after that and sustained a concussion, but it turned out not to be too bad. So he's been back riding, and they're both in pretty good form physically. There was a few differences. Vingegaard proved to be better in the time trial, but Pogačar was far superior in the mountains, taking 3 stage wins and making it clear that he is the man to beat this year.
Definitely. I have to say, seeing both of them at the Dauphiné, going into a race both in such good form and seeing how dominant Pogačar was, it almost makes it feel like an inevitability that he's going to win. And why are we doing this whole section? But, he's literally won 15 stage races out of his last 18, and he's been on the podium for all of those. So it's very hard to argue with those stats, isn't it?
It is, but this is the Tour de France. 3 weeks, French heat, long mountain stages. You just never know.
So who are we missing here? What about Remco Evenepoel?
Yes, the 25-year-old Belgian leader of Soudal Quick-Step. If Pogačar and Vingegaard didn't exist, he'd probably get a lot more airtime. He's the world time trial champion, the reigning Olympic champion in 2 disciplines. It's not too shabby, really.
It definitely isn't. And after that, the bookies currently have Pogačar's teammate, João Almeida, in 4th favourite, ahead of Primož Roglic. How did he get on at the past couple of tours?
Roglic, yeah, in 2023, he opted to ride the Giro d'Italia instead, which he won. Then last year, he moved to Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe. He didn't have a great opening race in his first run out as their GC leader. He crashed out in stage 12. But he did go on to win the Vuelta for the 4th time that year. So maybe it's just that the Tour has it in for Roglic.
I think you'll find that Roglic has it in for Roglic.
As for Almeida, he's Pogačar's domestique, so he'll be up at the pointy end of the race anyway. But he's unlikely to win if Pogačar's still standing. Maybe he might make the podium, though, if UAE play a total blinder, which they probably will.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for that run through, Katie. We're looking forward to seeing you in real time back in the studio tomorrow. But for now, it's back to the future for a run through on what's coming up on stage 3. Over to you, Jimmy.
Okay, let's take a look at stage 3. So it is 178 kilometers with only 800 meters of elevation, which in Tour de France terms is as flat as it possibly can be.
Yeah.
The stage finishes on the coast at Dunkirk. There is a lot of chat about this stage likely to be very windy. There's an intermediate sprint with 60 kilometers to go and a single point available for King of the Mountains, which is a 2.3 kilometre long climb at 3.8%, and that climb happens with 31 kilometres to go. This stage has very clearly been designed for the sprinters. The winds will probably make it very hard for a break to hold, unless the break is absolutely massive, i.e. there's 30 riders in it. We will therefore probably see De Koning, Trek, Intermarché doing their best to control the race, hoping that Philipsen, Girmay and Milan are going to be there to get some more green points.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. We will bring you all the action back here tomorrow. Until then, goodbye.
Goodbye. See ya.